Chris here, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm here with an exciting announcement. I'm here to announce Phase Out Your Seriesathon. So what is Phase Out Your Seriesathon, you're asking? It is a year-long readathon that is focused on working on however many series you happen to be in the midst of. So like I said, this is a year-long readathon, so it will run from January 1st of 2025 to December 31st of 2025 in your time zone. I have created 2 bingo boards, one easy and one hard, for those that want a little bit more of a challenge. But let's talk about the easy bingo board first. So as you can see, it is a 5x5 grid. There are a few rules. With the easy board, you can double up as many times as you want, or you can read a book for each prompt. That's totally up to you. DNFs do not count. You must finish the book. The entirety of the book must be read in 2025. You can't start it at the end of December and carry it over. It must be read entirely in the year 2025. And because the goal of this is to complete or catch up on or make progress in series, none of the prompts can be filled with the first book in a series. However, if you start a series in 2025, subsequent books in that series can be used to fill out things on the bingo board. So now on to the prompts. First up, we have Want to Visit. For this, you're going to read a book in a series that has a place you'd like to go. This can be a real location like London, or this could be a fantasy world or made-up world that has been created specifically for the book, like, say, Wonderland. That is totally up to you. It's just read a book in a series that contains a location you would love to visit. Then we have Single POV, and this just means to read a book that only has one point of view throughout it. For the rep square, you need to read a book that has some sort of representation. This can be LGBTQIA+ rep, it can be BIPOC rep, it can be mental health or disability rep. Just some kind of rep needs to be found within the pages of this book. Next is nature, and this is to read a book with nature on the cover. This means plants, trees, grass, but not animals. Animals do not count for this prompt. Then we have backlist. This is to read a book that was published before 2024. So the book you read must be published before 2024, although the series itself can have published books since then. It's just the book you're on and are using for this prompt must be published prior to 2024. Animal, read a book with an animal on the cover. Again, I think this is pretty self-explanatory, and this can be either an animal you would find in real life like a cat, or a mythical being like a unicorn or a dragon. Then we have new, read a book that is new. This could be a book that has just recently published. It can be a book you just bought. It can be a book you just picked up at the library. As long as this book is in some way new to you, then that will count for this prompt. Next is random number. So for this, you're going to number all of the series that you are in the midst of and use a random number generator to determine which series you're going to work on and read the next book in that series. In progress, read a book in a series that's still being written. This is to give you a chance to maybe catch up before the newest book in the series comes out. Adapted. Read a book in a series that has been adapted or is going to be adapted. There are 3 ways you can do this. It can be a TV show, a movie, or a book. So for instance, the Enola Holmes series by Nancy Springer does have a TV adaptation, so that would count, even if the TV adaptation does not cover the book you're reading. Or you could do something like Enola Holmes because it is based and adapted from Sherlock Holmes. So retellings, for instance, would work for this because they've been adapted from the original version. Next, colorful cover. For this, just read a book that has a bunch of colors on the cover. On to complete. Read a book in a series that is complete. This means the entire series has been released. You don't need to be reading the last book. You just need to be reading a book in a series where all of the books have been published. Next, we have free, and this is a free space. No reading is necessary. Though if you really wanted to assign a book to this, it could literally be any book in any series that you're currently in the midst of. Next, we have big book. And for this, you need to read a book that's over 500 pages or read the longest book that you have left in one of your series. Next, for people, you need to read a book that have people on the cover. For the trilogy square, you need to read a book that is part of a trilogy. Doesn't need to be the last book. It can be the second book, but as long as it's part of a trilogy, it counts. For building, you need to read a book with a building on the cover. So this could be like a skyscraper, or it could be a castle or a cottage, just some kind of building. For 5 or more books, you're going to read a book in a series that has 5 or more books in it. Next, favorite color. Read a book that has your favorite color on the cover. This can be as much of it as you want or as little. As long as your favorite color is represented, it counts. For multi-POV, you just need to read a book that has multiple POVs. For small book, you're going to read a book that is under 200 pages or the shortest book you have left in one of your series. For cozy, I'm leaving this open to your own interpretation. You just need to read a book that gives you cozy vibes. You get to define what that is. So for instance, this could be something that is literally labeled cozy, like a mystery or a fantasy. Or maybe it's your favorite series and a new book is coming out and you're really excited about it and it gives you those warm, fuzzy, cozy vibes because you know you're going to sit there and curl up and snuggle in with one of your favorite series. Very open to interpretation. TBR vet. Read a book from a series that has been on your TBR for a long time. Excited for. Read a book that you've been eagerly anticipating. And lastly, finish. Finish a series, read that final book, and get that series off of your TBR. So now on to the hardboard. So here we have the hardboard. As you can see, there is no free space. It is still 5x5, and the prompts are a little bit more difficult this time around. Just like the easy board, the books must be read in their entirety in 2025. DNFs still do not count. You still can't use the first book in a series, but the difference with the hardboard is you cannot double up. It is supposed to be more challenging, so there is no doubling up on the hardboard. So, for the prompts. First up, we have LGBTQIA+ rep. This means you need to read a book that has LGBTQIA+ rep in it somewhere, or is by an author that identifies as such. Exactly 2 POVs. For this, you need to read a book that has exactly 2 POVs, and it must be for the majority of the book. You cannot read a book that, say, has 1 POV and then the epilogue is a second POV. It must be for a majority of the book. And also, you can't have 2 POVs for a majority of the book and then have a third one pop up in the epilogue. The entire book must be told from 2 POVs and it must be a majority of the book. 6 or more colors. There must be at least 6 separate colors on the cover of your book. And shades of the same color don't count. So you can't have like a light blue and a dark blue and count them for 2 separate colors. Title has J, Q, X, and Z. This requires 4 books. You must read a book in a series whose title contains each of these letters. There is no doubling up on this. You must read 4 books. So you need to find a book whose title contains the letter J, a different book whose title contains the letter Q, a different book whose title contains the letter X, and a different book whose title contains the letter Z. And volume numbers don't count, so you cannot use volume 6, for instance, for X. Starts and ends with the same letter. For this, you need to read a book whose title starts and ends with the same letter. So for instance, Till Death Do Us Tart starts with a T, ends with a T. 3 or more POVs. Read a book that has at least 3 points of view in it. Features major event. Read a book that features a major event. This could be a wedding. This could be a holiday. It could be a birthday, an anniversary, a final battle. Just some sort of major event that takes place during the novel. Translate. Read a book that's been translated into a different language. This is another pretty obvious one. So it could be English to Spanish, it could be Spanish to English, it could be Spanish to German. Just as long as the book has been translated out of one language and into another, it totally counts. In progress. So this was on the easy board, but it's on hard mode now. So for this board, you have to catch up on a series that is still being written. So if they've got a book coming out in 2025 and you want to use that series, you have to read that book too to finish this prompt. Wheel spin. Find a wheel. This can be one you physically own or one on the internet. And add an even number of series you're really excited to continue and an even number of series that you're less excited to continue. And spin the wheel. Whatever series it lands on, you need to either finish or catch up in them or read at least 5 books in that series. I wanted it to be hard, not impossible. I certainly know that I'm in the midst of a few series that have way more than 5 books, so I wanted it to be somewhat doable. So at max for this one, you would read 5 books from that series if there are more than 5, or you can catch up on it if it's still being released, or just finish that series, whatever series it is that the wheel lands on. All 5 vowels in title. For this, you need to find a book in a series where A, E, I, O, and U are all in the title of that book. Not on the cover, not in the author's name, in the actual title of the book. Series you avoid. For this, you need to finish a series you've been avoiding or putting off. We all have them. I have them. I'm sure you do too. So this is your time to pick up that series and finally finish it. Finish a series. This one is pretty simple. All you need to do to get this square is to finish a series. BIPOC rep. Read a book that has BIPOC rep in it or is represented by the author. Last letter first. So this one's a bit tricky if you've never seen this prompt before, but basically what you're going to do is you're going to take the title of the next book in a series you want to read and have it start with the same letter as the last book you finished. So, for instance, if you just finished As Good as Dead, which ends in a D, then the next book you pick up could be Death by Beach Read, as it also starts with a D. If you want to add a little bit of a challenge to this, although whether it's challenging depends on your reading plans, you can make it so that it follows a prompt. So for instance, if you chose As Good as Dead, which is the third book in a trilogy, which you could use for the Finish a Trio of Trilogies square, don't worry, I will get to that, you could then immediately pick up Death by Beach Read to mark it off for last letter, first letter. So instead of using any book that you just read, you can try to make it actually be a book you picked for one of the prompts on the board immediately going into this one. Poll pick. Similar to wheel spin, you're going to pick a equal number amounts of series you want to read and series you don't, and whoever wins the poll, read a book from that series. Disability rep. Read a book that features disability rep. This can be featured in the book or it can be the author itself. Either way, it counts as disability rep. Pub in last 3 months. For this, you need to read a book within 3 months of its publishing date. So if the book comes out in January, you will then have 3 months to read that book. Otherwise, you would have to pick something else for this. I'm sure that you have a series that has a new release coming out in 2025, so I figured this one isn't too hard other than the fact that you need to actually read it shortly after it comes out. TBR vet by pub date. So for this, you need to look up publication dates. You're going to figure out which one of the books in your series is the oldest by publication date, and then read that book. 5 or more books. On hard mode, you need to finish a series that has 5 or more books in it. Trio of trilogies. I did say I'd get back to this one. For this, you need to finish a trio of trilogies. You need to pick 3 trilogies and finish those trilogies. 75% of cover must be your favorite color. This one feels pretty self-explanatory. 75% of the cover must be your favorite color. So for me, this is purple. So I need to pick up a book that is mostly purple and it can be shades. This one you can do different shades. So it could be a light purple and a dark purple and anything in between, as long as my book that I would pick is 75% purple in some way, shape, or form. For you, that is whatever your favorite color is. Just make sure it is 75% that color. Birth month. Read a book that was published in the month you were born. So for me, I'm going to need to pick up a book that was published in February. No if, of, and, an, but, or, the. Read a book whose title contains none of those words. And last but not least, black and white cover. Read a book whose cover is black, whites, or shades of gray. Think like a black and white picture. Ideally, these would be the only colors on the cover, and I would encourage you to try to find one that fits that. But I did look because I didn't want to make these challenges too impossible. So the cover must be at least 90% black, white, or shades of gray if you can't find one that has only those 3. For instance, Breaking Dawn, the 4th book in the Twilight series, would count for this because the cover is predominantly black and white, even though there is a red chess piece on the cover. But ideally, I want you to try to find one that is only black, white, and shades of gray. So those are our boards. I look forward to seeing what you want to do. Should you want to do both boards, I have an added challenge for that. You cannot double up on prompts across the boards. So you cannot take single POV from the easy board and combine it with a series you avoid from the hard board. You would have to do completely separate books for each board. Series can cross over, but books can't. So for instance, if you were reading a series for the easy board and book number 3 in that series gave you your colorful cover, you could then use book 4 in that series if it happened to have a Q in the title for the hard board. You just couldn't use the book that had the Q in the title for colorful cover on the easy board. Hopefully that makes sense. There is a Discord that I will link in the description below where you can come and chat with us, share your TBRs, check in and let us know how you're doing, and of course ask questions if you need to, or just hang out with a bunch of other bookish people who are trying to work their way through series. So there is a Google Doc where all of this information can be found, all of the explanations about the prompts, the bingo board graphics themselves, and any information I have mentioned in this video. Also there, you will find a link to a submission form. This will go live on January 1st. And basically, throughout the year, I will be dropping stats as to how many books we've read or how many pages or other fun things that I am tracking via that submission form. I just thought it would be really, really cool if we all submitted our books as we read so that we can see collectively how many books and how many pages and how many series we read in 2025. Also linked in that Google Doc is a bingo card spreadsheet. This was created by Omi, and honestly, I could not have done this readathon without her. She is just as much responsible for this readathon happening as me. She allowed me to bounce ideas off of her. She helped me make sense of some of the prompts to make sure that I was explaining them well enough. And of course, she created this amazing spreadsheet where you can actually see a bingo in progress. You can keep track of all of the information for what you're reading for each prompt, and there is a checkbox that you can check when you submit your book in the submission form, so you'll know whether you've submitted a book or not. And then the last thing I want to mention that is in the Google Doc is a series spreadsheet tracker. This is something I have created and I use all the time. I have let a couple of other people, including Omi, use it, and they have all really enjoyed it. It has tabs for the current series you're in the midst of, series you're up to date on, series whose status is a bit murky and you don't know whether there's going to be a new book or whether it's finished, series you finished, and series you've DNF'd. And then there is like a tracker page where you can enter in by year when you started the series and what your status is with that series. And there is a table that will keep track of all of that. You do not need to use this if you have your own or you're not interested in it. I just thought I would add it since we are focusing on series, and I have found keeping track of my series using my series spreadsheet has made a world of difference in me actually remembering what series I'm in the midst of and what book I need to read next. So I believe that's everything. Again, this is a year-long readathon that runs the entirety of 2025 in your time zone, where we will be working on trying to finish our series using the 2 bingo boards I have created. I look forward to seeing you all and seeing what series you choose to work on. I will have videos coming out with my own TBRs for each board in the coming weeks. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them below or hop in the Discord and ask them there, and I will get back to you. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me a penguin emoji, like this video, and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!